Hello and welcome everybody to middle of the week edition of Bookish, avec, which is not really something that I do usually. Well, actually, I've not done this before because usually I would just kind of do a Bookish, avec, video on a Sunday my time, and weekends. And why I decided to make this video is because for the past 2 weeks I've not been making any videos because I didn't really have the energy and also the time to make YouTube videos, and so I kind of had to partition my energy levels and just had to sacrifice certain things in my life, and that thing, one of it happened to be booktube. But the thing is, I have finished a couple of books, and I actually finished those books last few weeks. So because I didn't do any videos about those books, I didn't really end up talking about those books. And when that happens, I would kind of feel like this strong nagging itch inside me, so I decided, this is the middle of the week, I can't hold it anymore. So let me just do this video, a diet version of Bookish, avec, so I'm not going to talk more about other things beyond these couple of books. I'm not going to talk about what I'm reading right now. I will, hopefully will return this weekend with a full course version of Bookish, avec, so yeah. I'm back after 2 weeks. Anyway, I finished 2 books these few weeks, and one of those books was a short story collection. So the short story collection that I finished was Rania Mamoun's 13 Months of Sunrise. So this book was originally written in Arabic, and it was translated by Elisabeth Jaquette into English. This book contains 11 short stories, and most of these stories are pretty much just about lives in Sudan. And these stories, they revolve around so many different kinds of topics, mainly class struggles, poverty, relationships such as friendship, romantic relationships, family relationships. Some of those stories also touch upon mental illness, homelessness, just pretty much all of those political issues that happens in Sudan. So it's kind of an interesting when you look at the stories from the perspective of what kinds of subject matter it deals with. So in that sense, it is a short story collection that is bound to kind of attract my attention. However, after I finished reading this book, I thought that the stories were kind of forgettable. And what I mean by forgettable is that imagine reading one story and then you move on to the next, and then you realize that you don't exactly remember what happened to the previous story. Like you don't remember what the previous story was about. You don't remember the characters, you don't remember what it said, you're reading the current story, and every memory about the previous story just sort of evaporates like that. So that was my experience with this book. For most of the story, it was like that. And for me, I didn't like it. I think for short stories, one of the quality of a good short story is that once you finish it, because short stories are short, it has to be able to be punchy in that like really limited space. So once you finish it, I have to be able to kind of just stop myself from moving on to doing other things, just stop and then think about the story. And a good short story would just allows me to just think about it and reflect or ponder and do all those deep thinking stuff, because a good short story is punchy, and it doesn't mean that it has to have a punchline or a twist or whatever at the end, something bombastic. It can, the story can also be something that is just about a scene, but even that has to be powerful enough for me to just stop myself and feel like the world just kind of slows down for a while, just so that I could think about the story. That's a sign of a good story. But in this collection, I didn't really experience all that. So yeah, most of the stories are just kind of forgettable. However, I do want to highlight a couple of stories that I consider to be quite good. The first one is called "A Woman Asleep on Her Bundle," and this short story, it kind of involves the themes of homelessness and poverty, and maybe a little bit of mental illness as well, mental health issues. And basically what happens in this story is that we have this woman who is a homeless person. She's living outside. She seems to be like someone without a home or a family. And we have a narrator who pretty much walks by that woman every day. And then this narrator is not really in an intimate term with this woman. Like, this narrator does not know this woman very intimately. So many of the things that this narrator knows about this woman is actually through the point of view or what other people around them says. Like, for example, some of the people around them would say that this woman chose to live this homeless lifestyle. Some other people would say that this woman was actually driven to be homeless. And then some of the people would say this woman is actually a mean woman, like she would hurl abuse and stones towards people who help her. And all of the things that other people are talking about this woman just sort of gives an idea, a perception of what or who this woman is supposed to be. And the narrator just kind of absorbs all of those kinds of information. And even though the narrator themselves, they are sort of feeling like some kind of doubts towards all of these information about this woman, at the same time, the narrator does not exactly try very hard to get to know this woman. So there's always going to be a distance between these two people who, are in very different position economically, financially, and socially as well. So the narrator, someone who has more privilege in life, just kind of has this perception on who this woman is. It's not a malicious perception, but at the same time, it's a perception that is very much filtered by so much noise. And therefore, at the end of this story, there is some kind of a self-reflection moment that I thought was kind of nice and something that I really liked seeing in a short story. Because it does make me feel like there is something going on in this story. There is something going on with the narrator themselves, something that they experience, some kind of punch, if you know what I mean. So I just kind of like the way that this story explores class differences and how someone from a more privileged position is able to, not necessarily able, but is sort of able to kind of identify like why they feel certain ways towards other people of a lower position in society. So that's a really interesting story. I kind of like it. Now, the second story that I also like in this book is actually the final story in this collection. It's called Stray Steps. So basically, in this story, it also involves the themes of homelessness, poverty, and also mental health. Same set of themes, actually. But in this story, the main character is actually a homeless person. Now, this person was actually not homeless in the beginning of the story, but was actually driven to work as a beggar. And eventually they become homeless because they are not really able to earn much as a beggar. And basically what they had to do was just kind of give their earning back to the relative that drove them to become the beggar in the first place. So they technically, before they were homeless, they were actually living a more abused life. So yeah, there's that. And then after the midpoint of this story, we see this person, this main character, because they are not able to get like enough money or earnings through begging, they become really hungry, and then really thirsty, really weak, and their perception of the world, their reality just sort of blurs. And because they are so weak, so emaciated, they just sort of see the world in this like really fuzzy, blurry reality. And we as readers sort of realize that this person is not really able to kind of identify what exactly is real or fiction anymore, because they are just so hungry, And at this point, assistance actually comes to the main character, and it's really fascinating because the assistance that comes to the main character actually originates from a very unexpected source, and it kind of allows this story to go into a more of a very close to magical realism, but not exactly magical realism territory, where you would see things that feel fantastical, but at the same time it feels kind of strange, and also maybe even, I would say, to a certain point, but not exactly, perverted. But it's just really jarring also at the same time, the way that helps arrives to this person. And I kind of like the way, the direction of this story. It makes it really different from the rest of the stories in this collection. So those are my thoughts on 13 Months of Sunrise by Rania Mamoun. And next would be a novel. Next book that I finished was a novel, and it's called The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie by Muriel Spark. So in this book, this is a very short book, but it's really interesting. I really like it. So what happens in this book is that we have a teacher. Her name is Miss Jean Brodie. The story takes place in 1930s in Edinburgh, and the novel was actually published in 1960s. So we have this teacher who is teaching at an all-girls school, I believe. It's called Marcia Blaine School, and she's teaching a class of girls. And the students she's teaching is actually around the age of about 10 to 11. So even though she's teaching like a big class of many girls, she actually selects a few girls to be under her wing, sort of becomes her protege, people that she can shape. And these girls, 6 of them, would come to be called as the Brodie set. Now, at the same time, while all of this is happening, because of the way Miss Jean Brodie is teaching, her teaching style is really unorthodox, and so many other teachers, are actually not really cool with her. Like, she doesn't really like the way that she teaches students, and they just don't like her, especially the head teacher, Miss McKay. She's figuring out so many different kinds of ways to oust her from her position as a teacher. And Miss Jean Brodie knows this very well, and she confides all of this to her 6 students, the Brodie set as well. And what's really cool about this is that we see there's this kind of very close relationship between Miss Jean Brodie as a teacher with the girls in the Brodie set, and how they just sort of form this kind of personal, but at the same time almost professional kind of relationship as well. Because in this novel, one of the things that shows how unorthodox Miss Jean Brodie, and the way that she teaches, is that she tends to talk about her personal life, as stuff like her past, and also her past romantic relationships also during their class. And she sort of just kind of destroys the so-called depersonalized facade of a teacher to a student, or to students. And I don't know, this is just what I feel usually when you look at teachers, right? Especially when you are a young school kid. You would probably think of a teacher as someone who is just there to teach, and you don't really know much about this teacher beyond the way that they teach, what they present to you while they're teaching. You don't know so much about their personal lives, the kinds of things that concerns them, their fears, their worries. So you don't really see them as humans, or at least that's how I felt when I was a school kid. Because teachers, they don't talk about themselves a lot when they are teaching. It's kind of different with Miss Jean Brodie, and I sort of realized that, because she just pours herself out to these students. She talks about also her opinions on politics and history and art as well. There's so many of her stuff that she injects into the students, which is interesting. But when you when you read more into the story, you sort of realize that because you see Miss Jean Brodie as an actual human being rather than as a teacher only, you realize that Miss Jean Brodie also has some desires that she wants to have. She has ambitions. She wants certain things that she can't achieve. And one of the ways that she sort of wants to achieve these things is through the young students. So essentially, she is a teacher. She kind of has this, she's on this position, authority position. And she's able to kind of impart certain ideas on these students, impressionable girls, as it's called in this novel. And it is through her vocation as a teacher, she's able to just, maybe cause them to act, maybe manipulate them to do things that would allow her to at least have some kind of victory, especially when it comes to the things that she wants in life, like a relationship, for example. And this part of the story, the dynamics between these students, the Brodie set, and Miss Jean Brodie, is really, really interesting, because it's not all about adoration. It's not all about respect. There are some kinds of boundaries being crossed over. And of course, we now live in the 21st century. I think we have like a stronger ideas on how boundaries should be, and we sort of we can kind of see how boundaries are not really respected in this novel. And it's just really interesting because the relationship is sort of twisted, but at the same time the way that the story is being told is kind of comical as well. And I remember when I mentioned that there was this kind of plan to oust Miss Jean Brodie from the school. Well, actually, this novel, it will culminate in a betrayal scene. Basically, one of the kids in the Brodie set is going to betray Miss Jean Brodie causing her to kind of lose her position. I don't really call this a spoiler though, because what I think is more spoilery is that, you know, this betrayal is already going to be mentioned in the beginning of this novel anyway. So what's more spoilery is that how this betrayal is going to happen, and what are the things that happen before and after this betrayal, and who exactly commits this betrayal. So I think that's going to be more spoilery, which are the details I'm not going to talk about in here. But overall, I think that this book has been quite lovely, and yeah, I just really love it. It's a really nice book. It's a very short book actually, only like 130 page long in my edition, and it was a fairly quick read, a 3-day read, but you know, quick read nonetheless. But yeah, if you are interested to read a novel that is about the relationship between an eccentric female teacher with her eclectic bunch of students, then you know, The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie by Muriel Spark is definitely something that you should try. So yeah, that's it for my diet version of Bookish avec moi. I know it's probably going to be more than 20 minutes, and yeah, but at least now I'm able to get all of those things out of my system, and yeah, I'm half ready to carry on with the rest of the week. So maybe I'll see you again in this weekend, hopefully. So yeah, I'll see you then, and until then, take care, thanks for watching, and bye.